Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Politically Challenged with Tyler Hillier. Sexual assault allegations have dominated the news cycle. Every time you turn on the TV or open up your phone, you're going to see a new notification about someone being outed for some allegation or some kind of misconduct. We've had Kevin Spacey, Louis C.K., and right now the big one in the news is Roy Moore, a candidate for the Senate in Alabama. Now, Roy Moore is accused of being intimate with 14-year-olds when he was around his 30s. If you don't know, they can't consent when you're 14 years old. Now, Roy Moore has, for the most part, denied these allegations, but there's been some questionable statements from people from his campaign and from himself. One of these statements justifying it was that Joseph and Mary had a very large age difference between them, and they had Jesus. I don't know if Roy Moore would qualify as Joseph in this scenario, but that's the implication. So there's a lot of confusion and a lot of misdirecting happening here regarding these allegations. So, here to talk to me about sexual assault in politics and this Roy Moore case specifically is John Magee. John?
Hey, Tyler.
Thank you for being here once again.
Thanks for having me on the show.
So, Roy Moore, obviously, it's coming out. He might have dated some teenagers a couple years ago.
Probably more than a couple. I mean, I don't know how old he is offhand, but I mean, this definitely seems to be. I think like 40 years old by this point.
Yeah.
He was about. I think 32 was the age, or like the most allegations are coming from.
So, what do you think about? Well, let's talk about his response first of all. You heard the thing about the Joseph and Mary. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard that.
I had heard that before.
Absolutely ridiculous response. But a lot of the stuff he's kind of denying, but trying not to put himself into a box.
Yeah,
What do we take from that?
It seems to me, at least, there's a big air on Roy Moore's part of he doesn't want to outright deny things in case more proof comes out later. It seems like, because if you look at a lot of his interviews, he's not saying, no, I didn't do this. I mean, he had an interview with Sean Hannity recently where Hannity literally asked him, can you deny that anything ever happened? And Roy Moore just said, well, I don't remember anything like this happening, and it seems to be out of my character that I would do this. And that's a very kind of coy way of saying, who knows, maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Especially at the end, there's now, I think someone who was, when she was 16, Roy Moore had signed her yearbook stating she was like a beautiful girl and stuff like that.
I did see that.
Yes, I mean, and it's getting to a point where it's really, there's a lot coming out against Roy Moore, and it's really horrifying. I think any kind of response he's had so far is really just not appropriate.
It is. It's absolutely horrifying. And something that I have to say did shock me was now we have Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan both coming out and telling him to step down from the race.
Because I will say we're in a very interesting position right now because it is at a point where Roy Moore technically can't just opt out. His name is going to be on the ballot. That's a guarantee. But a lot of people are telling him, one, they're urging people not to vote for him. They're saying a potential write-in candidate would be the man who lost the primary against him, or maybe not the primary, but who would have been running for his seat. Instead, I can't remember his name, but he's another Republican senator or potential senator. And people are saying, really, it's at a point where they can't take his name off, but they're saying just pretend it's not there, which personally I support. I think that's a good idea for everyone. What really boggles me, what really I think offends me the most is how different these accusations are being treated. Because when we look in Hollywood, with you were saying, with Kevin Spacey, with Louis C.K., with all these allegations, there was an immediate backlash against all of them. I think Kevin Spacey's House of Cards show was terminated. Whether or not it was going to be canceled already is a different discussion. Louis C.K. canceled a lot of stuff, and people are now turning deals with him. The same with Brett Ratner. I mean, Gal Gadot is allegedly, she hasn't confirmed this, refusing to work with Warner Brothers until they cut out Brett Ratner's company from all their dealings. So I mean, when it comes to Hollywood, it seems like all these allegations are being met with consequences. But in the political world, I mean, nothing's really happening. Like there's a lot of backlash against Roy Moore right now, but I legitimately don't know whether or not he might win the Senate seat. I could see him winning that.
Well, yeah, it's interesting you brought that up, but I just looked at the polls and he's still up in his race. Roy Moore's still up. So it's an interesting thing of, I guess, how people justify what they're doing. They questioned one congressman on what they thought of this Roy Moore thing, and I thought it was funny. His response was, the Democrats are going to do great harm to this country. So basically, it's okay that he did this with 14-year-olds because we need him in the Senate to keep the Democrats from destroying the country. And I think that's a dangerous road to go down for anyone in any party.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it reminds me again of during the election with Trump and the whole Billy Bush tape and the grabbing women. And it reminds me that, like, in the political world, at least, when these allegations are made, they almost seem to not faze people. They seem to almost not matter. And it didn't affect him, I think, at all. It seems like it's not having a big effect on Roy Moore. And I think it really draws to mind how far gone I think our political system is, and how we need to really reshape it in a lot of ways. Because it seems like a lot of people are, they're justifying these allegations by saying, well, maybe he did that, but we kind of the things we want is more important. What we want to do in the Senate is more important than the safety of women in this country.
And you brought up Donald Trump, and I think because of his past with those scandals, I suspect we won't hear a statement from him on Roy Moore anytime soon.
He's been declining statements on this.
And I don't blame him.
Well, I mean, I kind of blame him.
I mean, I blame him for not doing it, but he's trying to avoid that.
Yeah, I get the logic of why he's avoiding it.
That's what I mean, the logic.
It's very problematic that we have a president who's avoiding this issue for that reason.
Yeah. Well, John, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on the show, Tyler.
That's all we have for you today, Florida Southern. Thanks for stopping by, and be sure to check out the show next week, Politically Challenged, with Tyler Hillier and I guess John Magee now, who's
probably
here all the time.
You're kind of like a regular. We need to get more guests.
We should. We should. You
Let's
can work on that.
There's more seats.
Are you an intern now, technically? I think so.
No?
Intern John. Sounds good.
I don't approve this, Tyler.
I remember, folks, the buck stops here.